Welcome to the Marvel Cinematic University podcast. I am your host, Sherlock Canton III, and we are beginning our coverage of the Disney Plus series, Agatha All Along. So excited to be talking about this. But you know what's also all along? The MC University Patreon, patreon.com/MC University Pod, where you can get our bonus content, such as the subscriber mailbag that we did last week. A lot of fun. We took a lot of interesting questions, some Shannon Sharp related stuff. If you want to pay a little extra to get our answers and our thoughts on that, feel free. And of course, if you're watching on YouTube, like, subscribe, comment, all of these things. So appreciate everybody for supporting. In the meantime, we do have a panel, so let's get to them real quick. First, the super producer, Jake Christie. Jake, how are you?
I'm doing well, trying to keep up with these Zoomers on TikTok, you know how it is.
Yes. Oh, that TikTok of Jake's, he's becoming a superstar in these ranks. Let me tell you. It's I'm not kidding either.
I don't know how it happened. I don't know.
It happened overnight, and all of a sudden, he's 1 million likes now. Jesus Christ, what happened here?
I really, genuinely don't know.
It's tremendous stuff. Go check out Jake. Jake will plug this later. But in the meantime, we do have guests. First, our pal. He's always here. We leave the key under the mat for him to show up every single time, and he's always here for us. Our guy Rod, aka the black guy who tips. Rod, how are you?
What's going on, man? Appreciate y'all having me on to talk some Agatha. It's a very great day.
Oh yes, it's a wonderful day. Anytime MCU stuff comes back, it's a very happy day around these parts. And we have a first comer, a new guest on the show. Her name is Jasmine. Jasmine, welcome to the program. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me.
Wonderful. So we'll start with you, Jasmine. So we got 2 episodes to kick things off. And I just want to say quickly, as we discussed in the Discord last night, specifically me and Jake have certain feelings towards Aubrey Plaza that we will try and control. We'll try and control throughout the episode. I can't promise how much we're going to control them, but we're going to attempt to control them. But the general vibe, at least that I get before I throw it to you, Jasmine, first is I just love the fact that we got to revisit Westview, WandaVision, that era, bringing the entire cast back, basically, that existed there, all of the extras and everybody who appeared in it. That was so cool. But Jasmine, I wanted to get your initial thoughts. What did you think of these first 2 episodes, just from a general standpoint, things that stood out to you, whether tonally or things along those lines?
I love that the first episode started off with the True Crime reference, picking up on the TV theme that WandaVision got us rolling with. I still have to say WandaVision is still my favorite MCU series so far, so any reference that calls back to that, I'm excited about. So I think that they did a great job as far as presenting this mystery to us, as far as where the coven is actually going to be heading and where they're going to be encountering. We had this magical teenager who, for some reason, cannot reveal his true identity right now, but he is powerful enough to undo a Scarlet Witch spell. So he's going to be obviously
For the listeners, AC just pulled out a magnifying glass. He's wearing a Sherlock Holmes hat and glasses, by the way.
Outfit.
If you're on YouTube, you'll see it. Yes.
It's really something to behold.
But continue.
I also think it was interesting that this character from WandaVision was apparently a secret witch this entire time, who could just fit in with the coven and be useful during this quest down the road. I'm highly excited that Patty LuPone is in this show. I love anything that she does. But I'm very excited to see how this hunt plays out, especially since they're already being chased by these mysterious figures.
Yes.
I'm excited to see the backstory and the history of their conflict between Agatha and these other witches. And I'm excited for more Aubrey Plaza. I'm not sure if it's quite for the same reasons
but
you guys are, but I'm excited to see where that relationship goes.
Well, to your point, Jasmine, as far as the relationship goes with her and Agatha, that is fascinating because there seems to be a genuine, I will say this, the chemistry between those two was off the charts. Just incredible stuff. And I am excited to see where that goes. But Rod, I want to get your thoughts too. What did you think of this? What do you think of these 2 episodes generally? How did you feel before we get into specifics? How did you feel about what you saw?
Oh man, it was very intriguing. It felt like putting on an old pair of slippers or something. Like the way they just kind of slid right back into like the opening, with the kind of parody openings and all that stuff and the TV tropes. And so it was fun seeing, the character of Agatha kind of in the lead of this stuck in a sitcom thing. But also, I like how fast they transitioned out of that, because it could have been I could see a writer feeling like, oh, we should do this for 6-7 episodes. Like, no. We kind of hit the thing. Let's move. It was cute. The cast is so amazing and fun. And I really can't wait to delve into more of the cast. Hopefully, this feels a little different than even like Loki last season, where you got that feeling of like, we're not gonna get to know too many of these like secondary characters. This feels like everyone's gonna probably get some sort of an arc in order to explain why they're part of her coven and this journey, what they want at the end of the road, and if she's gonna betray them or not. The action looks super dope. The setting is super dope. And I'm just a real basic pumpkin spice like fall type of person. So like this Halloweeny vibe of, you know, like this Jeepers Creepers Goosebumps stuff is just really doing it for me. And and then when they had the fighting and stuff, that was cool. And it's also riddled with Easter eggs. Like there's just gonna be so much. Like I couldn't even keep up. Like I'm just gonna have to go to YouTube and let someone tell me what all this stuff means, because this is like the part of my brain that knows it means something was buzzing, but I couldn't pick up on all of it because they're not all MCU Easter eggs. There's a lot of like witchcraft, Salem witch trials, you know, occult type stuff going on. So much like AC, I'm also on the hunt for some clues.
Yes, you love to see it. This is so much. Oh, Rod.
Why did I not get the memo about props? Rod just pulled out a pipe.
I was just about to ask that.
Well, you remember, if you remember on our last public episode, Rod pulled up with the Stephen A. Smith impression for the entire episode.
Truly,
we
did
not
emphasize
realize that was coming.
If you haven't,
we do appreciate it though.
If you haven't listened to that is I. No offense to anyone else who's been on the show, it's the best performance Amy's ever done in an MCU.
Absolutely, 100%.
It's like not even close.
Oh my god!
But no.
But yes, you go ahead, Jake.
Yeah.
You go ahead, Jake. Give me your thoughts. What you got?
So yeah, I thought I 100% agree with Rod. If anything, I felt like it even took a little long to get out of the parody, but I'm fine. Well, the fact it was done by the first episode was good, and I think that part of the reason that that's the case is because this show was written by the same person who wrote WandaVision for the most part. And so you could imagine if someone else was writing this, they would be like, I want to do that WandaVision thing. That will be fun. Let's do this. Like, but no, Jack Schaffer or Schaefer, you never know when it's spelled that way, is really, you know, wants to keep things moving. And I think she really has a keen eye for this character, and I like how they're expanding on, because we really didn't get a lot of the character of Agatha Harkness in WandaVision. She was mostly pretending to be someone else the whole time, and after 2 episodes the character feels completely drawn, and I'm really glad that we got to the Witch's Road by the end of episode 2, because there's a tweet that goes around a lot these days that's like, back in the day there used to be a show called Surf Dracula, where every episode you would see Dracula get on a surfboard and surf around, but now Surf Dracula is 13 episodes long and he doesn't get his surfboard until episode 13, you know, like that. And I feel like that is a problem that TV constantly has these days, and it's like, no, this is gonna be about the Witch's Road. Let's get on the freaking Witch's Road. And the chemistry between Aubrey Plaza and Catherine is great. I mean, of course, they both were in Parks and Rec, and while they didn't share a ton of scenes together, they're like, you know, that whole cast is super close. As a big Parks and Rec fan, I would watch their interviews and stuff, and you know, just the vibe. You can just tell that the way that they're playing, that they're people who have like a really intimate chemistry. And yes, there's the stuff where the show has a lot of tension and things like that, and I'm really enjoying it. But I do have to reference the famous tweet that says, "Getting queer baited by the Marvel Cinematic Universe is like losing at chess to a dog." So I'm not going to assume anything too much, because you can't rely on it. But they're definitely, the whole thing of my heart is black and it only beats for you, and you want me horizontal ... lying in a grave. I mean, they might as well just go to a Chaperone concert already.
I'm just saying, man. I'm just saying, like this. Listen, most people know me as a very wholesome person. I actually am a very wholesome person. This is the one instance where I feel like I've been tested.
So if we start looking around at your website history in any forms, you're saying we won't discover anything?
Well, not anything in particular, because there's always the you know.
Okay.
There's always a way to.
I'll say this: if you pay the
certain things,
you pay the $3 to get into the Discord, you'll see me saying some things that I wouldn't want publicly. It's $3. I mean, I put it behind the spoiler marks, so you can still read it.
I just needed to know if AC had an account on nudeafrica.com or not. That's really what I was getting at.
We'll tell you this right now. Yesterday, you on YouTube, Marvel Studios put out an ASMR
Mhm.
of the cast just doing things, and I saw Aubrey Plaza licking a knife, and then I was like, you know what? Somebody needs to take my phone away because I just fam. I just could not talk anymore. I
Yeah.
had to stop.
And the thing is, she knows what she's
Yeah.
doing. That's the whole thing about her, which is why you appreciate it. Because it's not like it's acting like her. She knows exactly what she's doing. And you know what? Thank you, Aubrey.
Yes, appreciate you. More on you later. So let's start with Agatha, because I think the cool thing about the first two episodes, I think Jake made a great point as far as her being completely drawn. There's no ambiguity. This is clearly a terrible person who is willing to betray everybody to get what she wants, and I thought that was so fun.
Mhm.
And just the way that she interacted with everybody was a lot of fun too. Jake, I'm going to circle back to you, and then we'll go around. What is you to more of that being drawn point? What stood out to you in terms of Catherine Hahn's performance and what we saw to this point?
The thing about it is, you're right that she's a bad person, but they clearly are setting up seeds for her to go through a journey. Because, like, I think that this ends in some way with her making a face turn, and I know that people who like worship the comics get mad whenever they turn villains into heroes, but that's the way that storytelling in movies tends to work. And I think in TV shows, and I think that I think they're really nicely setting up a history of basically planting the seeds for her to be someone who she is hungry for power. She doesn't really care about other people, but you also can tell that she's kind of miserable and alone because of it. That they really emphasize how shitty her life is because everyone hates her because she's pushed everyone away, and so she doesn't realize it yet, but it's the part of her that makes her so shitty is why she's in this predicament to begin with, why she needed to go out on her own to try to hunt the Scarlet Witch, why no one tried to save her for 3 years. This is why she's in this situation, is because she's so coarse and so not caring about other people. And so there's a clear thing we're tracking with her, and that's the whole thing where people talk about the difference between plot and story. The plot is obviously her going around the witch's road, yada yada, but the story, they made it pretty clear, is how Agatha comes to be part of a coven again, how she learns to be with other people again is kind of what we're tracking. And I think that that's a really interesting story, and I think that the fact that that's clear makes me feel hopeful about the rest of the show, because I feel like where TV shows, particularly limited series, can go wrong is when it first starts out, when all you're getting is plot, when the only thing you're tracking is what is literally happening on screen. That's a problem, because it's we're just seeing event after event after event after event. But the fact that it's okay, we're going to watch this character grow and change when she is forced to be in a coven again, when she's forced to be with this mysterious teenager who clearly is bringing something out of her, that I'm excited to see that. And Catherine Hahn is someone who's such a talented actress. I mean, let's just say how incredible it is that, Catherine Hahn, who is a character actress in rom-coms for, 15 years, is now the lead of a fucking hundreds of millions of dollars Marvel TV show. Say really about Marvel and its problems or whatever, but I can't think of a lot of other franchises that would give, a former character actress in her 50s a big budget sci-fi fantasy show. It's really, really awesome. And she's an actress I've loved forever. I think her performance in Step Brothers might have the highest in terms of minutes on screen, in terms of funny. It really was hard to beat. So I think she's just great. I think she's playing all this so well. And so that's the reason I'm going to keep tuning in, is because I just trust her so much.
I tend to agree with you on that. I think just from just an emotional standpoint, it's what makes her tick. It's getting to see that at the start is interesting, to your point, as far as, because we didn't really get to see exactly who she was in WandaVision. So that seeing this character fleshed out a bit more, seeing her interactions, how she was kind of scared of Rio when she attacked, and there was kind of this vulnerability to her that after the fact she brushes off, but then you see that exists, that this is a weak point for her. I want to see that explored further. That fascinates me. Jasmine, what did you think of Agatha? And let me pose this question to you specifically. What did you think of when we found a certain scarlet-haired person found deceased, as we get confirmation that the Scarlet Witch is dead for now?
I have to say, I love the way that she actually handled the murder investigation and how they teased out the reveal. I really enjoyed the scene with her in the library, or was she back at home, where she was figuring out the title of the book that she was looking for, spelled out Darkhold. So being able to also connect to Multiverse of Madness was a good time. I like Jake said, I'm very excited to see where Agatha's journey takes her down the road. And I love the fact that she hasn't, even with the spell broken, she hasn't fully gotten back all of her memories. So she doesn't remember why she has some of these conflicts with the people that she's encountering along the way. So being able to get more of her backstory, what actions did she specifically take to push some of these people away? What is she going to learn from these new mistakes? I am very actually anticipating what she is going to look for at the end of the road when she makes it there. So looking for the flashbacks. I'm looking for the big reveals. I'm looking for what she does. Since they're obviously tying back to Wanda, what does she want to do with that information?
Yeah, like I think it's clear. Obviously, she makes it at the outset. I want my powers back, and I want more power. But what does that mean when somebody actually gets that power? What is she like? What is she going to do with it when she gets it? Is the bigger question. And what does that mean? And along the way, will somebody amongst the coven betray her, as she was so easy to try and betray them when they were doing the Ballad of the Witches Road, which, by the way, banger. I was listening to it.
The fact that when Marvel's like, we need a song about the Witches Road. Let's call in Robert Lopez, the only double EGOT alive, to do it. Like that's the thing about Marvel. They can call the best people alive. Like we could come up with a ditty ourselves, or let's get the guy who wrote like fucking Let It Go to do it.
Jeez, that was tremendous. That was tremendous. So yeah, that part is very fascinating. Rod, like what do you see in terms of Agatha? What you saw, your thoughts on her character, her motivations, and where do those things stand as we start these first two episodes?
So I think the biggest thing for me was that she still had the fun wild card energy. Like the character, even with her being a villain, even for WandaVision, like her being on screen is what made it fun. Was her popping up and being this wild card, hilarious person that like transforms into the villain at the end, and you're like, oh my god, it was her the whole time or whatever. That's like that vibe. They were able to carry that over into this, where she's villainous, she's evil, she's that, but also there's just these fun moments when her and Aubrey Plaza are fighting, and she's just like, but if you like let me go and then I'm able to get some power, it'll be more fun to fight me, like to get me later on, the way she ropes in Miss Hart, who she doesn't know her first name, the way she like ropes her into like, you're in the coven now, and lies to everyone like, I'll be right back, I'll get the last witch. It comes back like not an Earth Witch, it's just Miss Hart. Maybe it'll be a twist and she will be the Earth Witch. But the point at that moment is still funny to me. And so keeping the core of that character is important when this is essentially a real deal spinoff. This is not I don't know how planned out this was, but it feels like we loved Agatha so much as fans that Disney and them were like, we should definitely do something with this character because everyone loves it. And to take 3 years to make this, and for it to pick up like this, where I'm in immediately, like it immediately made me remember what I liked about the character and the story. That's what really nailed it for me, and I think they're nailing it with the character and the acting for her specifically.
Yeah. I mean, as far as I can tell, I think that they didn't plan it at all, because the way that Catherine Hahn tells it is that she wasn't even told that they were going to do it until she was filming Glass Onion in like Greece. And this was like after WandaVision aired. I think it just like was such a big deal. And I think I will say, I think that's something Marvel could take more examples from, of like, oh, this is really working. People like this. Maybe we should do more of it.
Yeah, I think it's really important to recognize that. I mean, Jake and I specifically have talked about Marvel TV and generally comic book film TV, having to realize that TV is a different animal than the movies, and being able to structure these TV shows in a way. I love the fact that this is 9 episodes and not 6, where you really have a chance to tell a more complete story and give people something to chew on, as opposed to a lot of times with these 6-episode stories, you're not really getting enough. You feel like they're either rushing too much, or there's something that's always left that you feel like you want a little bit more. I get the sense here that these first 2 episodes allow you to really think about everything that's happening, but also you feel like you have an idea of where this is going. So they've done a pretty good job, I feel like, generally so far in giving us that, and also recreating that same feeling that I felt while watching WandaVision. Because I rewatched WandaVision before this came out, and to be taken back into that world and remembering what 2021 was like watching that show, and how much it was just a cultural touchstone for people, and how specifically episodes 4 through 8 really had folks in a chokehold, like wondering, like, yo, what is this? Who is this? Is Reed Richards the aerospace engineer? Me looking for Mephisto, the whole 9 yards, like it just took me back. And this show so far has those same vibes, so it's exciting to see that. Now I want to take out my magnifying glass because we mentioned Rod was talking about like Agatha's character generally, and we all were. So I noticed that they really focused on this picture of, I think it's like either I think it was like an award or a scholarship thing or something along those lines, a certificate for Nicholas Scratch, who is Agatha's son. So where is Nicholas Scratch? This is a good question. I'm trying to figure this out, and I wonder, we're gonna take this over the next 8 weeks. And we have to wonder, there's a reason that they don't just put the name there just for the sake of putting it. It feels like we're going to know who this person is. And that leads me to the mysterious character known as the Teen, played by Joe Locke. And this has been fun since Joe Locke's been doing interviews, because he's had to tell everybody, I don't know what y'all are talking about this Billy thing. I don't know who Billy is, who's that, whoever, because everybody's under the assumption that he is Wanda's son, Wakan. So I wonder myself, after seeing these first 2 episodes, and we don't get a reveal, because for whatever reason, when Agatha asks him, there seems like there's a spell that stops him from speaking, and then I love the twist in the car where they're talking and then he just fades. He just fades out. That was cool too. So just firstly, and Jasmine, I'll start with you. What did you think about the Teen just generally? Because some people are mixed on his performance. Our pal Springthorpe in the Discord, Jake, was he was not too enthused about the Teen and his performance. But Jasmine, I'll ask you a 2-pronged question. 1, how did you feel about the Teen? And 2, who do you think he is? Do you think he's Billy, or perhaps could he be somebody else?
I have to say, he had possibly my favorite scene in the first 2 episodes, in the interrogation room where he was constantly manipulating the evidence while she was asking him about it. I really enjoyed seeing him display some of his powers, even though it's clear that he's not quite sure how to use them yet, and he's looking for this mentorship. So obviously we had the first question, did he pick the right mentor in following behind Agatha, knowing what we know about her character? He, for the most part, seems like he's open to learning. I'm still kind of curious, why he didn't alert them that the 7 were following them while they were trying to break the spell.
He was doing a whole lot of nonsense while them folks was just coming in the house. Something. I mean, damn. Make a yell out, like, yo, they coming.
Right. But obviously, again, he's extremely powerful if he can break a spell that was cast by Wanda. So there's a lot of potential there. And it's also curious to me what he wants to get at the end of this road. Like, just power, like you said, is vague. Does he want to use the power for good? Is this Wanda's child trying to pick up where she left off?
Is he trying to revive her?
Where does that journey?
Yeah.
Right. Does he want the dark hole? What does he want with this power once he gets to the end? So I'm going to stick with the theory that it is Wanda's child for now until we hear otherwise. But I would be very happy if it does have some kind of connection to Agatha.
Oh man, yeah, that's what I was thinking yesterday as watching it. Like, I wonder if they're gonna flip this on us, because it's been everybody and their mamas like, this is Billy.
Yeah.
And it feels like this feels like the type of thing that would be a flip. So this will be something to watch going forward. Rod, what did you think of the Teen, and what did you think of his machinations? I think Jasmine made a great point about the powers and not being able to use them to the degree, because we see in the first episode that he he kind of got the witch thing down. Like, he's using the spells, and he was helping Agatha get out of that situation. But then in the second episode, it seemed like he was a little more in over his head. What did you think, Detective Rod?
So I have no idea who this kid is gonna turn out to be. I still feel basic saying it, but like I love the idea of it being like a Mephisto type character or something. Even if that's kind of far fetched. But
More on that later.
What the kid really makes me think about is Monica Rambeau from season 1. Someone who enters this spell to try to extract someone out of it. And so it feels like the kid is just there to obviously to get something out of it, to machinate, whatever. But part of it is like to give Agatha her agency back, or to get her to like start making some moves and not just be stuck in this spell, repeating TV shows over and over every day. And so I like him as a change agent and a chaos agent. And I'm a sucker for that trope of like, every TV writer does it, but it's like, hey, who are you? And then like a horn beeps in the background, or someone busting around and cuts them off in the mid-sentence. And you know you're going to answer it eventually. It's going to be a big deal. But I like the creative ways that they did it, with the spell that twists his mouth literally, and the fade out in the car. And I love that Agatha as a character, because we're seeing it basically from her perspective. We're experiencing these moments. I love that she low key is kind of like, okay, whatever. like that's gonna be a thing. I'm not gonna let on that I can't tell what the hell he's talking about. But like clearly she doesn't know, and we're gonna all be surprised together. As far as the performance of the actor or whatever, I don't know. It seems kind of fun. It's kind of hard to pull a character like that off in a cast of very funny people. And to find another way to try to be funny. He kind of reminds me of the dude from Abbott Elementary that's like the white teacher. At least like the comedic way.
It's a great comp.
Yeah, like it's the comedic way he's playing the character, like, and that kind of character always makes me smile and laugh. So totally fun, and it's good in the parlance of obviously TV writing. He's a really good straight man to Agatha's hijinks, like to everyone's hijinks. I mean, Aubrey Plaza is like slamming him around and stuff, and it's just like fun to see somebody be able to do that role. So I'm intrigued by this character.
Yes, and Jake. Oh, well, you have something, Jasmine?
Oh. No, I was going to say, while he was talking, I remembered that Agatha kept calling him her familiar, so I had to look up like what the significance was of a witch's familiar. And it does say that a familiar can come in the form of a dead relative. So now I'm all in on that road.
My main question that I'm wondering about him is because I don't, at least the way that Joe Locke is playing it, he is not playing it like he knows that he's Agatha's secret son or that he's Billy or anything. I don't think he knows who he is really. I think that is the thing that's interesting to me too, that like they could obviously pull the rug and it could turn out he's lying the whole time. But as we discussed many times in this pod, I think that there's almost nothing less interesting than when a character's arc is everything they said previously was a lie. I don't think that's what we're gonna do, because that is just a bad arc. Like it's not interesting. Like that's like the thing that makes Agnes interesting is that like she's both lying but also not, because she is anyway. But I think that what he knows is really interesting to me, like, because I don't think that the reason that he thinks that he is there to like learn under Agatha's tutelage, that is not the entirety of why he is there, but I don't think he knows that, and so that's something I'm very interested in. And I think what's also very interesting is that Joe Locke was born on the Isle of Man, and that's a place I didn't know people were from, so that's the thing we can add to the conversation too.
I'll say also, if he's lying, it would be interesting to me only in that Agatha did this in season 1. So I would expect her to not be taken in the way that like Wanda was, where it's like, what the hell? I would like, I low key I can't wait to see why she thinks he can't communicate his backstory. You know what I mean? Like, because that is interesting to me, less, but not because he's lying, but only because of what it would mean for Agatha, if you know what I mean.
Exactly.
But then we have to wonder who actually
that was my next question.
Wait, Casey's got the magnifying glass.
That was my next question. Who do we think put the spell on good old teen. And I'm wondering, and this kind of leads me to Aubrey Plaza's Rio, which we'll get into in a second. But like in terms of the spell, who possibly, because it seems like the teen has been put in position to kind of follow Agatha around. He's clearly on this mission to get power, but it feels like somebody else is pulling the strings. And I wonder, could it be where the devil is in the details, and that's one Mephisto? That's my deduction for the time, but we will continue to play this out, because with Rio, played by the wonderful Aubrey Plaza, who's having more than a moment, I must say. She is just delightful, just delightful. She comes in as this FBI agent. And Jake, I posted that photo in the Discord where she's like, "You can have all the control," and I was like, "Woman, listen, stop it." Stop it right now, please. Stop. Just stop it.
AC's getting knock on the door. AC, we need your phone, sir.
Yes, you're gonna need my phone. But nonetheless, wonderful performance. I think that passion in their fight at the end of episode 1 was so fascinating, because it does feel like Rio, I don't know if she necessarily wants her dead per se, but she wants to hurt her. She wants to hurt her. She clearly wants that. And then she does warn her that the Salem 7 is coming. She didn't have to do that.
No.
So there is, and she does make that line. She says that line where my heart beats for you. And I'm like, my black heart. And I'm like, black heart? What black heart is she talking about? Is she somehow? So this is where we go back to interviews, because on the red carpet of the Agatha All Along premiere, Aubrey Plaza was doing an interview, and she said she was very excited for fans to figure out who this new character that she's playing, because it's Rio, but there's going to be a reveal that she's in fact somebody else. Now, the question is, who may she be? And I wonder, is she working for the devil with the details in Mephisto? Jake, I go to you first. What do you think?
I obviously I don't have the comics background to speculate, but I think that she obviously has an ulterior motive. And I do agree with your assessment that she doesn't want to kill her, really, because why would she warn her about the Salem 7?
Oh, she loves her. She wants some more.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that, I think she has both an ulterior motive, but also a sincere motive related to her. And so, I don't know if I've seen enough of her yet to really pin down what I think the ulterior motive is. But if it does involve Mephisto, that would be awesome. If it doesn't, I'm excited that apparently she'll be in more stuff. This is not the only MCU property she'll be in. So, in terms of this reveal, I'm just happy to, be along for the ride. I'm not gonna, because I don't have the comics background, I'm not gonna be guessing what she is. But I think that there simultaneously is something bigger going on, but I also think that there's not much bigger going on. I think them being former lovers or entangled in some way is also a lot of what's going on. I think it actually is that simple in some ways, even if there is an ulterior motive on top of it.
And let me not put that to the side. That is very important. In fact, if anything else, that relationship is going to be the most fun part of the show. So I don't want to mistake people to think that I'm just Easter egg hunting here. Trust me, I'm into this relationship a lot. So, Jasmine, let me ask you, what did you think about Rio performance-wise and all of that? But also, who possibly could she be?
I love the performance. She came in, it seemed like she was trying to do a little assessment in the first episode, like how much does she actually remember? Is she going to recognize me? How much is she going to remember about our original conflict? So she was kind of testing her here and there to see how she should play it. But the moment that she realized the spell was broken, she came in ready to fight, pick up wherever they left off all those years ago. So I love that energy. I'm not exactly sure who she could be, but I think one of the things I am curious about that might give us some information is who was originally supposed to be the last member of the coven. It seemed like she just randomly went out and got this neighbor.
That's the impression I got.
Well, I've seen a clip that they showed yesterday, a clip that Rio is with the coven. So she gets in there. She gets onto the road somehow. So which makes me wonder, if she's on the road with them, if she finds a way to show up and she doesn't take part in the song and the ballad and everything. So how is she able to do that unless she got some bigger
Right.
guns behind her? That's my thing.
Mm.
So we'll see. We shall see. And Rod, Detective Rod, if I may.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yes, my good lad.
Yes. Indubitably. What do you think?
First of all, Aubrey Plaza's performance is great. She's just chewing up scenery. It actually, like, I actually felt her absence in the second episode, like not being
Yeah,
as
me too.
involved. And so and it just seems so obvious she's gonna have to get down the road, because who the hell wants to watch this show if she's not involved at the part where they go in the basement in the road, down the witches road. But she kind of gave me this vibe of like maybe she was in the coven with Agatha a long time ago, her original coven, and maybe she's one of the people that's done wrong, or someone that's related to one of the witches she did wrong, because we know she's stolen other witches' powers and stuff in the past. And she gave me this vibe of like being a guard at a prison. Like, she didn't give me the vibe of like, I want to kill you, I want to help you escape. It felt very much like, you're going to relive this hell. I'm going to keep popping up as different characters, just making sure you're back at the next TV show. I'm going to pop up to make sure you still suffering. And then I'm a dip, until that the team broke the spell. I feel like something about her felt like she shows up in all of Agatha's nightmare Groundhog Day scenarios. And whatever the spell has done to Agatha can't remember her. But their turmoil is so like visceral. She can remember she hates her. You see what, like, she so whatever they went through was that intense that she's like, I see your face and I just know I don't like you and I shouldn't like you. And so that once again just gives me lots of intrigue as to the backstory of that character, because it feels more different. It feels different to me than like she's a tool to like to work for someone else. I feel like she has her own motivation in wanting to see Agatha suffer.
And it's pretty clear that Agatha, as I said earlier, there's a vulnerability to her when it comes to Rio. The thing that was mentioned that we caught was that apparently if Agatha absorbs her power, she dies. So that's different than every other witch that Agatha has encountered. What led to that situation, I want to know. That's a fascinating thing right there.
And like deep down somewhere, Agatha knew, telling her like, don't catch me now. It'll be better. You want me to be a better opponent to beat down later. And and it worked. That something about that feels so intimate. Like, you wouldn't just tell that to some random person, or just like if I was just the guard at a prison and I didn't like, that shit wouldn't work. But if you like knew my personality a bit, you'd be like, you could do that to me. And so that, it kind of felt like there's something deeper there.
That's a classic manipulation tactic, especially when somebody who's backed into a corner like she was. I mean, damn it, I'm gonna do it again. But when Rio licks the hand,
we can't.
But it's just, I mean, it's a little something us in the detective field like to call a little reverse psychology. I don't know if the laymen know about this tactic, but it felt like she used it in order to get herself a little bit more time to build her coven and get down that road.
Yes. In fact, Agatha, in her own narcissism, if you think about the entire 2 episodes, the way that she manipulates everybody into doing what she wants, while simultaneously, like, verbally beating them down at the same time is just really incredible to watch.
And being reluctant the whole time. Like, it's like she don't really want to, she's like, I don't really want to do any of this, but also you better do this shit with me.
Yep. This is setting up to be really intriguing just overall as a series. But let's get into some of the rest of the coven. Jasmine mentioned Patti LuPone being in this series, and I know Jake, you had mentioned it previously when we were previewing this. Let's go around the room. Let's talk about her performance, because it was fun to see her. Hashtag Wash Agenda. We here. Just had to represent, salute,
Mhm.
and love to see her in this. I think she did a great job. Jake, I'll start with you. What did you think of what you saw from her?
Yeah, I think it's just an energy that the MCU hasn't had a ton of, because the MCU is like not a very like theatery. It doesn't feel like they're really recruiting from like big theater backgrounds, and she just has like a way of speaking and a way of being that is just so magnetic. And I like that she's kind of the one who can go barb for barb with Agatha. That like she doesn't like her, and like Agatha at her peak was probably more powerful than her, but she's also like screw you, like she's not she's not gonna take her bullshit, and so I think having her involved just like it also just gives an air of credibility to the whole thing that you know it I don't know, just like a really I don't have anything more elegant to say than just like that's the scene where they're in her like kitchen going back and forth. I felt like just had a
That was
lot of
fun.
like pop, like it was like a really fun scene because there's just two really good verbal actresses going back and forth.
Yes, I would agree with that. And Jasmine, how about you? I see you grinning. I know you want to get in here. Well, what did you think about Patty's performance?
She's one of my favorite all-time Broadway greats. Like I would watch anything that you put her in. She's this larger than life actress, and she brought every element of that to this performance. It's pretty clear, as far as the character goes, that something is keeping her from being able to use her full powers, on a consistent basis. You can see, it's a little hit or miss, or she's holding herself back for whatever reason, even though she's been around for what 450 years, I think they
Hashtag super
said.
watch agenda.
So I'm curious
Yeah.
as to what happened. Right. Right. So what happened in her backstory that got her to the position that she's in? She obviously seemed to know of Agatha and her reputation, but still decided to go along for the ride. So I'm wondering if they had any interactions that maybe Agatha's not remembering somewhere along the way. And again, what is it about her that's making her not use her powers to her full potential? And is that what she wants to do when she gets down the road? What
Yeah, I
does she
wonder with
want
the
out of
way
this
that
whole
this
journey?
series is structured with the 9 episodes, if we get to see an episode of each of the coven getting to kind of show their abilities and their particular individual story. And if it is that way, I think that will be exciting to see what that looks like for her and the rest of the coven too. That's interesting. Rod, what did you think? And I want to kind of span this out to the rest of the coven as well. What did you think, not only of Patty, but kind of what you saw from everybody else in their own way? And we have to give a salute to Deborah Jo Rupp, who was just great and just playing along and just happy to be there and having a great time.
Honestly, that was my favorite moment of that second episode, was when she goes and grabs her, because that's a character that I started smiling as soon as they showed her in the first episode for like a second, and I was just like, oh yeah, I remember her. She was good, and then when they're like, I'm going to go grab the other person, I was like, oh, they're already going to get Aubrey Plaza. I guess we're going down the road. We're going to forget these tertiary characters that were her neighbors in the first season of the show. And that's fine. But then they go and get her, and like the way that she doesn't know the words to the song, she's looking like me in church, where she's just like, like good for everyone. And like if she's harboring any level of like witchcraftery or ability, I'm gonna be excited by that. But it also would be straight up hilarious if she just it has none of this. Like if she gets down there and she's just a woman stuck on the witch's road, like what the hell are we gonna do? That is also hilarious. So like that was like a great move. Every other character, I'm just mostly I want to hear their backstories. That's it. Like Shazir Zamada's character is like interesting to me.
She got that fraud going on. She a scammer. She out here scamming folks.
Right. Like she's interesting to me just because because we don't know much about her. And Patti LuPone's character is interesting to me because she clearly does know like Agatha. And I love the fortune telling, like when Agatha's lying to her, like, oh, my husband died on a golf course, and then she's like, yeah, and then you also betrayed your coven, and da-da-da. You're like, okay, yes, this is what I want to see. So yeah, I'm very interested in these people, but I just hope the show is as interested in them as I am, so that, like I said, we don't get
Yeah.
Loki'd. Where I liked Loki season 2, I thought it was really good, but if you really wanted to hear someone else's backstory, you were SOL, because they were like, hey, this is just this guy's story and he had a funny joke and we're done. So I want to see these characters kind of go through the paces, because it won't make sense if they're on the witch's road and they all have a different motivation for being there, and we don't like explore those motivations in some level of depth. I'm not gonna be too selfish and be like, it's really about them. Like, I get it, it's really about Agatha, but I would like to see, a little bit more with all of them.
Well, it's funny because I think like the interplay between everybody is important. To your point, you need to see from everybody, is somebody going to act out of turn because of what they see from Agatha this right off the rip. So we know this person is not great. We know this person is trying to betray us at every turn to get what she wants. She needs us as a means to an end.
Right.
Will there be a turn from somebody else to avoid that turn from her? That where you play those type of stakes.
And the reason I said, I kind of set my expectations, try to be reasonable with it, is, and Jake has made this point so many times with these shows. This is when we don't have 22 episode seasons. There's only a certain amount of backstory I can expect for a secondary character, or else I'm just going to get let down. So even with 9 episodes, which is nice, I just like, am I going to get like a Shazir Samaida crying and going through an episode? I might not. And so I need to like be reasonable about that.
I'm excited to see what her backstory is, because I always felt like I'm probably the only person on here who ever watched SNL regularly, but I always felt like she was an underutilized cast member. Also, I once looked right down, there's a surprisingly few amount of SNL people who have ever been in the MCU. I think it's only 4. Anyway, but I speaking of the Deborah Jo Rupp character, what she reminds me of is Karun from Eternals, which is one of the best characters the MCU's ever had. And so like she could turn out to have witchy powers, or whatever. But honestly, I hope that it's just that she's human and she's
just
there
along for the ride.
Because like I also think that there's what I can imagine saying, and I'm not in the prediction business, but you can easily imagine there being something on the witch's road that only a regular human could do, that like these witches are so out of touch that she brings them back to Earth. Because I think that so much of Agatha's journey needs to be reconnecting with the human world in some ways too, because she's 400 something years old, like she's not tethered to any of these things. And so like I think if she can like have a real relationship with Mrs. Hart, I think that would mean a lot, because I think that she also like I think that she will grow to like Mrs. Hart more than she's willing to admit. Like, you can imagine that storyline where she kind of feels sympathy for her, and then she starts to grow fond of her, etc. And so, like, I think that she's a really interesting wrench to throw in there, because even though the teen is not a full-on witch, and he still can be a audience surrogate characters in some ways, I feel like if most of the show is going to take place in the Witch's Road, and every character is someone who knows stuff about magic, that can get really confusing really quickly, and like really just get samey, and I think that having a character who is confused by everything, who is going to be asking questions, is like really helpful narratively, and so it doesn't become dense or stupid.
Exactly. The fantastical.
I love that, but then it goes back. Yeah, but then it makes me wonder, they said the coven had to have these specific types of witches, and clearly the song worked, even though we had this character who may or may not have any power. So if the song still worked with her humming along and not knowing the words, then it's somebody else there using that to be
and like the fantastical loses something when you don't have like normalcy to ground it in.
Yep.
So like having that character that's like, what is happening is crazy as hell, definitely escalates things. And like there's something about them getting down there and having a regular person that puts a wrench in everything. So like now, because like it's like a heist film. Heist films aren't good unless the heist goes wrong. And so they're starting this journey wrong. Like we know like something went wrong. Y'all not supposed to have been able to pull this off with just these three witches and a regular person. None of this is supposed to be happening. Something's gonna go wrong when you get there. And so that's really where my interest is piqued. And of course, I just have to wonder if the Salem 7 or whatever they're called, how are they going to get down there? Can they follow them down there? Do they do the incantation? Like, because obviously at some point someone's going to have to pursue them on this road. So I'm all in, man.
Yeah, I'm pretty. I was kind of amazed. I felt watching a lot of the interviews before this show came out that I would like this show.
Yeah.
I have to admit, I'm surprised at how much I enjoyed the first 2 episodes and feel incredibly positive and feel that they're going to at least continue the genre bending type of stuff that WandaVision did. So in bringing that to the screen and having such a talented cast, because I also think like you can't do that without a cast like this who just really incredible across the board. Like not only just incredibly professional, but you could tell that they really enjoy doing this. I mean, and that's a big
Aubrey
part
Plaza,
of it.
after this, she did her first off-Broadway play, and she just stayed in Patti LuPone's guest room the whole time. That's how, like, you know, obviously that doesn't mean the show is going to be good, but when you hear anecdotes like that, it's like, oh, this like there's a vibe here. This was not, you know, some piecemeal thing where they all shot on different sets. It's like, oh no, this, you know, woman in her 70s opened up her home.
It's also fun because I think so much of the talk about the MCU, it sounds like a shareholders meeting, like even fans now. It just, there's no like real, like just fun being had. It's like, well, the returns for the 4th quarter. And I'm like, no, I've never thought of that when I hit play. I'm never thinking about that when I'm watching a movie. I'm only thinking if it's fun. And so getting new blood in the MCU that likes being here is so important because it does make sense that you would want to phase out some people that have been doing it for 10 years and probably do want a break of being the same character, no matter how much money they've made. They're, you know, there's part of them that's just like, I'd like to kind of move on. And this is so huge. I can't go in public. I can't do another movie. I can't do anything without this coming up. So having people like Aubrey Plaza, who was amazing in Legion, come in and be like, oh no, this is fun. Like, this is dope. I want to be in this. That energy does pop off the screen. And I think that's why when she wasn't that much in the 2nd episode, I could feel it. Like I could feel like that energy missing, but I love that vibe.
I think that Aubrey Plaza is the perfect level of actor to have. Same with Kathryn Hahn in the MCU, because I feel like you want an actor who's really talented and who's willing to have a lot of fun, but you don't. But what eventually ends up causing issues is when you have one that either is a star or a rising star, because then they start to worry about, like, how is this going to affect my career? Can I do other roles? And it's like, no, Aubrey Plaza knows that she's never going to be the lead of a $150 million project outside the MCU. You know what I mean? Same with Kathryn Hahn. Love Kathryn Hahn. She's not going to be the lead of a $150 million project that is not in the MCU. And so the fact you have these people who or no, I'm not saying like they're, oh my god, they're so grateful. Like, no, it's like, but Aubrey Plaza and Kathryn Hahn are probably thinking like, this is so fun. We get to cackle like witches on a gigantic, expensive set in like something that millions of people are going to watch. Like, we couldn't do this anywhere else. And I think that energy is so much better than like I really am trying to set up my production company and I've only eaten chicken breasts for the past 3.5 years and I kind of hate my life. Like, that I think is can be poisonous to fun.
No, I agree. That's so important to, I think, Rod, what you said about the box office stuff, like everything being analyzed from a monetary standpoint has really watered down the conversation, because you have so many folks who eat off this in terms of social, when they'll post like, yo, top 10 here, everything that happened with the Marvels and things along those lines, and that becomes a big talking point. And enough people talk about it, then it becomes a business conversation when we want to talk about, is the project good?
It's like sports. We watched it happen in our lifetime. You guys are sports guys. Yeah. When I was a kid, I just liked my team. And I liked the other teams, and I liked those players, or I didn't like them or whatever. But I just don't remember ever having a conversation about like the salary cap and that mattering to me. And then there became a time where like the salary cap is actually more important than the team or the players or the vibe of the fan base. It's like, yeah, I hear what you're saying, but what are they going to do when it's time to pay Tracy McGrady next year? I'm like, who the fuck is thinking about that? They're down 7 in the 4th and they need to score. That's how I feel with the MCU, where I'm like, I'm having a good time or I'm having a bad time. What I'm not thinking is, But how are they gonna re-sign Chris Hemsworth? Who gives a fuck at this moment? Is Thor gonna be good?
I think I think it actually comes from the same thing, because I know that, you know, your close personal friend Bomani Jones always talks about how the reason it happened in sports is because people who are nerds started identifying more with the front offices than they did the players. And I think something similar happened, not in a nerd divide in movies,
Right.
but I think that people who, and this is going to sound rude because I'm not including myself here, uncreative people can't identify with actors, writers, and directors, but they can identify with the idea of trying to make something that's successful. Like, they think they can, and so it's like, I'm gonna focus on the box office because I can't say for sure that my movie would have been good, but I can say that what I'm thinking would have made it successful. And I can't relate to what it's like to be an actor. I can't relate to what it's like to be a writer, but I can imagine what it's like to be a studio executive. And anyone who thinks like that is a dork. And of course, with movies, then what happens is people pick up on that who want to use it as a cudgel. Like, notice that the movies that people talk about failing at the box office are almost always starring women and or people of color. So like that's where it becomes toxic. But I 100% agree that, like, as fans, we should just be consuming it, and I think we should only care about the stuff insofar as it means if there's going to be more or less of what we like.
That's it.
Yeah,
that's it.
I think it's so funny when you watch, because it's similar to the first take and all of that stuff that happens in sports. The MCU, the first takeification of the MCU has been really horrifying to watch for me. I've just not seen all these people just saying things, just saying random things about whatever this, and this actor did this, and this actor doesn't need to be in this project for this. Why didn't they use Wanda here? Where's Wanda? I want more Wanda. Like, like, there's a portion of people who is just like, why isn't Wanda in this? Like, just like that random, just as an example.
Right.
And I mean, even with some of even the RDJ stuff, like with coming back as Dr. Doom, is like, why is RDJ
Can I bring
here?
up something that's been happening we haven't discussed?
Go ahead.
How fucking gullible so many MCU fans are listening to that freaking that's freaky dude who got fired from X-Men 97 basically telling them, yeah, what you guys all want, the exact thing that you guys wanted in Doctor Strange, I was gonna do that. And like, the amount of people who bought, like, a guy who was clearly trying to get good PR for himself saying all those things that you wanted, I was gonna do them. Like, how dumb are you?
Why would you tell me that for free? But you would only make me pay to hear why you didn't sexually harass your office mates is fucking insane. That is an insane thing to do.
Or, like, my blade pitch was good and they didn't like it. Like, fuck off.
No, the aggregators,
to me, telling me, which is clearly a violation of some sort of, like, he's not supposed to be doing. Of course, but
he's violating all of the
violate it for here's my blade pitch is insane. When people are like, you're a freaky ass, you shouldn't be outside. How are you not? That's when you violated. Was like, yo, I didn't do that. They're accusing me of stuff I didn't do. Nah, I'm gonna kill him with this one. Wanda would have been alive in mine. Yo, fuck you, bro. What are you doing?
It's basically like the kid who lost the class president race saying, well, I would have given recess every period and given ice cream at lunch. Like, stop it.
Right.
Oh, man.
I just love...
Have you been seeing this? Because I'm curious if it's left
Yeah. Jasmine, you weigh in.
I think what you're talking about is kind of what's contributing to the overall MCU fatigue that people keep talking about. Like, people are running wild with fan theories and kind of coming up with how the movie should play out in their head or how the project should play out in their head before it even 100%. Hits the screen. And when it's not exactly what they envisioned, then all of a sudden it's a terrible project. You know, they should have done more. They should have done whatever, but we're not letting the world actually build out, because we can still see how every project that's being released connects to something else that we've seen, we've enjoyed, we've commented on. And I also think it's interesting that not only are there fans doing it, they just seem to be asking random actors who have nothing to do with the MCU. What they
actors and directors.
What the MCU is going through, like Jamie Lee Curtis.
They got my girl. They got my girl, America's sweetheart, Jamie Lee Curtis, with that bullshit too. And I like Jamie Lee Curtis.
Oh yeah.
But they definitely caught her slipping playing that game, and like people were like, Kevin Feige made her apologize. I was like, or she realized that this shit is toxic, and this is not the kind of PR you want. And then, especially when you're about to drop Borderlands. Right, exactly.
I saw that
You're
shit.
about to drop Borderlands, and you're not gonna beat the money chasing allegations, sis. Okay, that was not a creative endeavor.
Borderlands could have been 25% better, and it still would have been the worst MCU movie. I really mean that.
Right.
Like, it really was.
Borderlands
and
is like what AI would make from a movie. Like, as if AI made a movie.
The problem with that is, I think that, like, AI actually, I think, would have... Because Borderlands has the sense of humor of the radio stations in Grand Theft Auto. And I mean that as a majorly derogatory thing. And, like, it's kind of what the tone is in the game. But, you know, the thing is, it's like... One of the problems with Borderlands is the way that the game is funny is similar to the way that the funny guy at your office is funny. Whereas if a game is funny, it's like, oh, I made a couple jokes. But then if you watch it in a movie, it's like, this isn't funny enough to be a movie. And the guy at the office who's funny is like, he's not funny enough to do stand-up at the Apollo. You know, like, and so I think that what you're saying, Jasmine, is absolutely right. How they're basically trying to make every narrative about it. And, like, I think I've always said, and I know people don't want to hear this, because I get it, that, like, people want creatives to engage with the fans. I think there should be an engagement or whatever. But, like, at the end of the day, fandom is a one-way street. And if you are, and it feels like so many times MCU fans are mad at the idea that it's a one-way street, that they don't have input. And it's like, you actually just don't. That's actually not part of this. This is not how media exists. Like, sorry, like, you don't actually have a say. They can listen to if you want, but, like, when people act like it's an injustice that they don't do what the fans want, it's like, that actually is not a part of the process. Like, find another thing to be passionate about. If you want to have your say or get involved in politics, like, this is not a democracy.
Start a lobby group.
That's right.
And
but I do hate that it's affecting a lot of the other Disney projects, like the Star Wars. Like, you can see how the
Star Wars is an example of what happens if you do listen to them, and it's worse.
Yes, and the thing is, I do stand on. I do feel like Borderlands is written by AI. I think if that shit would have been successful, they were gonna pull back and be like, "You guys just enjoyed your first AI movie, guys. That's why no one wants to put their name on writing this." But once it failed, they were just like, "We won't talk about this anymore. They can't trick me."
Wait, did you see Borderlands, Rod?
Yes, I saw that bullshit and we reviewed it. It was terrible. It's the worst movie I've seen this year.
Like, y'all.
Look, me and Jake some real ones.
Y'all be doing yeoman's work.
Yeah,
we some real ones.
Unlimited,
okay,
baby. It's important to note that I'm moving in 2 weeks, and I made sure I still in 10 minutes of the movie theater. That was my number one thing when I started Honda Place. Still gonna be doing this bullshit.
Okay, we back on our bullshit. I just came from the movies tonight. but yeah, it just felt like a very stale amalgamation of movie tropes that just weren't good and
so bad.
And as a person that played those video games, low-key had very little to do with the video game. It's such a weird thing. It's like, make an action movie and just insert IP. But the other thing about, the Marvel stuff is when we like boil down all the numbers and the fucking fan reactions and the online like discourse and stuff, it just kind of loses something in the, like, when you press play or you walk in the theater, you kind of just want to get lost for a little bit. And so Agatha All Along was able to give me that. It's like some of these properties are really good at that. I think Loki was like that. Even, despite whatever misgivings people had, Loki, I escaped for 30 to 40 minutes a week, and I enjoyed living in that mystery. And Agatha's giving me that tingling sense of like, oh, here's a mystery I want to see solved. Where are they going to go with this? I hope they can keep this momentum up. And most importantly, it didn't feel like a Secret Invasion, where it's just like, whose idea was this? Why'd you green like this? I'm like, no, this feels like it's a purpose.
Fucking an alien.
I got trauma, man. I got trauma from that show.
That never comes up again.
It'll always come up on this program. I do have to say, because in the midst of the Bo DeMaio talk, I had to say it was funny seeing all these aggregators just post all of his quotes and then just use a photo of him in his underwear. And that shit just had me rolling, man.
I mean, all the photos of him wearing clothes, though, he certainly didn't post them. When
Buddy posted the Cyclops fan art, knowing what he's accused of, yo, you're a wild boy. What's wrong with you, man? Why would you
poke the Disney there? Like, Disney is going to do their investigation. They have
what are you doing? Like, he's like, listen, Disney do hate gay people. That's why. And then the first thing you see in Agatha is like the teens, like, my boyfriend's calling. I'm like, Huh? So they didn't cancel that one out. That's interesting.
Also, like,
Yeah.
that thing I tweeted, and I really mean it, it's like, I am truly not interested in him telling his side of the story unless it is in a witness stand at the Los Angeles County Superior Court. Like, stop
There
it.
you go.
If you are going
Yeah.
to accuse a multinational corporation of like
That
an,
shit on
of
OnlyFans. Come on, man.
straightforward discrimination, which you can do, fine.
Yeah.
Disney discriminating, I'm willing to believe that. But if you're saying I'm going to do it behind a paywall on my OnlyFans, I just don't believe you anymore. I don't mean to side with the multinational corporation.
On your
I don't mean to side with
OnlyFans. How that makes sense,
like-
bro? Like you're being
guys,
accused.
I did not sexually harass people. I'm going to use a site used for sexy
Right.
photos to tell you my sex.
Right. Come look at my dick, and also I'm gonna tell you the truth. What? What are you doing? I'm disgusted with this dude, man. Like at this point, the craziest thing to happen would be if he was telling the truth. That's how far.
Yeah,
we
honestly.
go. Like
Yo, for real.
the same thing that happened would be like, oh, he wasn't lying at all. That's exactly what happened.
Yeah.
Oh God.
Yeah.
Right.
I
I'll
hate
say
that's
this.
overshadowing
The thing I will say about
how
this whole
good
discourse,
that
all this
show
stuff with
actually
like
was.
MCU,
Well,
the amount of people who really engage in this discourse is actually a very small percentage of MCU fans. So like,
Agreed,
that's the
agreed,
thing.
agreed.
Like we talk about turning off your brain or whatever. The good thing is for most MCU fans, they don't have to worry about turning off their brain because they don't know any of this bullshit anyway.
Yeah. That's
Yes,
a good point.
I appreciate you saying that, Jake. Yes, that's very true, and we have a lot of fun on this show, making fun of those folks because it just really do be funny every single time.
Mhm.
Let's get some Agatha closing thoughts. I want to go around the room. Jasmine, I'll start with you. What is one thing that you are looking forward to seeing being, whether it's a character being fleshed out, whether it's perhaps a mystery being solved? What are you looking forward to if you could name one thing going forward with the series? There you go.
Mm-hmm.
I want to know who the teen is and why
Interesting.
he's so
Yeah. That reveal. They went out of their way to do the double spell thing, so that seems like it's going to be something that we watch, as I'm sure other characters will ask, who is this dude? So that'll be fascinating to see for sure. Rod, how about you? What's one thing that you're looking forward to?
Well, so it's kind of two things. One of them is
feel free. Go ahead.
the Salem 7. Like, I would like to know a little bit more about them because right now they're just kind of like these, almost like those things in Harry Potter, the Dementors or whatever. Like they just show up and scare you. And I like to know what is their motivation. Why are they trying to get Agatha? You know, if there's any personal relationships between them, if there's any relationship between them and Rio, something like that. I like to know that. And then the other thing is more of a vibe thing. There's just like a very feminist overtone to everything that's happening, all these Easter eggs and all this stuff. Just the idea of witchcraft and how, you know, the prosecution of witchcraft has been used to like stifle women's freedoms and autonomy for, you know, centuries. And so this show seems very aware of that. And so I'm kind of wondering and waiting on like, when will we get that bigger message? Because I mean, I don't think it's the top billed cast are all women except for the teen. So I'm waiting for like, what is the feminist theory, the message that is going to come throughout these 9 episodes? Because I'm guessing it's some sort of like, we see Agatha as evil, but she's a woman in a patriarchal world, and this is how she gets her piece of the pie or whatever. And I'm always down to hear that as a villain origin story or you know, the villain motivation.
Oh, no, that's wonderful. Wonderful. How about you, Jake? What are you?
So I did have a final thought that I wanted to say.
Oh yeah, feel free. Go ahead.
That there was one thing that really pissed me off about the first episode. They're doing the Mayor of Easttown parody, right?
Yes,
and
that's exactly what that was.
It was great. I mean, yeah, obviously, and I loved Mayor of Easttown. For a while, my Twitter banner was Bear of Easttown. It was a bear photoshopped on front of Mayor. And I think that really pissed me off though is when Agatha goes to her fridge and grabs beers. She grabs Dos Equis when the Rolling Rocks were like one of the main characters of Mayor of Easttown. Like it was like the cast was basically Kate Winslet, Gene Smart, Guy Pearce, Rolling Rock, and Gowrie Rice. Like that's really what the cast list was. And so to make it like that just felt like a really and that honestly it took me out of it. I'm sorry, that's a joke.
What do you think happened?
Really,
do you think it was like a brand deal thing? What do you think happened there?
I'm gonna look up who owns Rolling Rock. Who owns Rolling Rock?
Mm.
It's owned by Anheuser-Busch, and then who
Okay.
owns Dos Equis? Dos Equis is owned by Heineken. So maybe,
Mm.
maybe it's a brand thing. But
Okay.
yeah.
Maybe
but-
Anheuser-Busch was like, we don't want to be around no DEI stuff ever since Kid Rock started shooting up beers. Like, take our shit out.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But what I actually want to know about is like, what is the Witch's Road? Who made it? What's the deal with it? Because like, I'm for 2 episodes, I'm willing to accept that there just is a Witch's Road, and you get something at the end of it. But like, I hope they don't yada yada all of that, because like, they're basically, it's like a whole new like realm that you get transported to, and it's magical, and there's stuff at the end. Like, is it like the Wizard of Oz where there's like a trickster element to it? Like, I think it would be exciting if maybe when you get to the end of the Witch's Road, it isn't as simple as you get a power or whatever, you know?
Yeah.
So like, I want to actually know some stuff about that, because I think that sometimes the MCU will yada yada different realms or planes of existence. Like, I think beyond the how it looks like shit and Catherine Newton gives a bad performance, one of the problems with Quantumania is that like they just don't explain anything about the quantum realm, and like there needs to be, if you're introducing a new world, you really need to give rules. And so like, what are the rules of the Witch's Realm? Like, honest question, are they being transported to another place on Earth? Is this another temporality? Like, literally what is happening? I think that those questions, if they're not answered, then it will feel, then the Witch's Road will just feel like a plot device. You
we
know?
don't even learn what
has to have been made by
Quantumania is. Like, no one gets Quantumania in Quantumania. Like,
no,
it's just a word that's in the title. And I love what you said about the Witch's Road, because like, it does beg the question, well, why didn't Wanda try that? You know, like,
well, she didn't know what it was, though.
Oh, she just didn't finish the Darkhold. She was like, that's in the end.
Oh yeah, I guess you're right. Maybe she saw it at the end of the Dark.
Yeah, she just read the cliff notes, like a little astral projection here.
She was like me. She was like me reading the instructions to like a computer and shit. I was like, I don't know, 3 pages in, I got it.
Yeah.
Or she's like LeBron with the first page of each book.
Yeah. Yeah.
She wasn't a witch all that long, though.
Yeah, I think that's like I'm really interested in seeing, because I think that there's a lot of, if they're willing to delve into it, there's a lot of interesting stuff that could be going on. Because like, we've only scratched the surface with the existence of witches in the MCU, and I think you could do a lot about the lore of like, was there a Supreme Witch, or was it Mephisto who made the, like, all the questions.
Yeah, you are piquing my interest, sir.
Oh, AC, you have a pipe too? What?
AC had a pipe too the whole time. I didn't even know.
I just broke it out at the end. I surmise, as I just take a little swig here. I will say, like, the biggest thing for me, and I'm gonna leave Mephisto to the side for now, because this is the purpose of the get up throughout this entire series for me, is the hunt for Mephisto. But in the meantime, if in fact the teen is Billy, the revival of Wanda is very important to the future of the MCU, because Wanda Maximoff is an incredibly important character to the entire thing. So, what is Billy? Is this his form? Is this the spirit of Billy? Because remember, in the regular 616 MCU, these kids didn't exist. They were made by Wanda. They were created by the Hex. So we need to find out, is this a multiversal version that shows up here? Is it a spirit? Like, how did this happen? There are some questions that need to be answered there. And with that aspect, that's where I'm intrigued the most. So with the teen, whether it's Billy or whether he's another character, seems like a lot of these things lie with him. And obviously, Aubrey Plaza.
Yep.
More of her, please. Thank you. You're welcome. And good night. And before we go, this was really fun, by the way. It's fun to get back into the MCU. It's fun to talk about these episodes. And we'll be having a grand time doing it over the next 8 weeks. A lot of fun. First of all, thank you to our guests for joining us. Firstly, Jasmine, thank you so much for making your first time appearance. A lot of fun having you. Appreciate you for joining. Where can we find you on the socials?
Thank you.
Wonderful.
Twitter is
and Rod,
AllThatJazz13.
aka the black guy who tips, always takes the key under the mat. We appreciate you, sir, for joining us once again. My friend, where can we find you, sir?
Oh man, Rodimus Prime on Twitter, and check out my podcast, the Blackout Tips Podcast. And if you're like really cool, join the premium people. We do a show called The Nerd Off every like 3 weeks where we talk about a bunch of nerdy stuff. So if you're in the MC University and nerd stuff, video games, all that, check us out.
Wonderful stuff. And Jake Christie, yes, tell us about this incredible wave of the Museum of Twitter.
I'm on Twitter at the Jake Christie, and then on TikTok. In July, I started doing a series called The Museum of Twitter, where every single day, which was a dumb decision, I talk about an important tweet for about 5 minutes. I bring on guests, experts. I've a couple times I brought on the actual people who've tweeted the tweet, and inexplicably it blew up, and I just reached 1 million likes today. And I think I'm at like 8 million views. I don't really know how it happened, but it's been some of the most creatively fulfilling things I've done in forever.
Jake, can I interrupt you for a second and tell you why this happened?
Why?
Because I think, one, your interest and love of Twitter has been one of my favorite things about you, because you're very passionate about it. And as I've told you before, your delivery on these things is exceptional. It's like beyond exceptional. Like, you need somebody to deliver this stuff in the way that you do. You deliver it in a way that's like, oh, I'm not going to stop this video. I'm going to keep going. And then now that as it's evolved and you've brought people on, you've added context and all of these things, it's really what's made it kind of appointment TikTok viewing. And I think that's why people are latching on, because not only people love Twitter or hate Twitter, so it's the passion either way, but also it's you. It's your delivery. It's the cadence. It's the things that you've added. It's your ability to produce and edit these things. I think you should give yourself a pat on the back. So it isn't just like this accidental thing that happened.
I mean, I'm aware of that. A thing that I feel good about is that like, if I became successful on TikTok for doing a series about a thing that I only cared about a little bit, I'd feel very differently. But like, being passionate about Twitter is like one of the things I'm most passionate about. And the two things I love the most are Twitter, and I love taking things that are not incredibly seriously, like how I just did the drill candles tweet, and I brought on an actual economics journalist to discuss how we can save money, like things like that. Like that type of shit is why I get out of the bed in the morning. And so to find out that people respond to that is like the most gratifying, because it is like the most uncut version of me. And so when I'm like doing that, when I'm being the most myself I've ever been in any internet project, and people are like, we really like this, it's like, holy shit, why have I been doing anything different this entire time? Anyway, but please subscribe if you're interested in that sort of thing. Every day I do one, which once again, big mistake, but also I think that's part of why it grew, because people can do it every day.
Consistency is the biggest part for a lot of stuff, man. And you've been doing a great job with it. And I mean, clearly it's been working. That you're moving, he's moving 10 minutes within the theater.
Yes, I will say that my calculus of how much I could spend on moving was definitely impacted somewhat by the first TikTok check I got. Not gonna put that on Main Street, but it was pretty big. And then I think this month I'm gonna double it up.
Make lanes for yourself, create different avenues for yourself. I mean, if you think about it, like you've been at it for years trying to find your way, and everybody got to find their own way. And I love the fact that you found your way being you. And that's a beautiful.
All right, we're talking too much about me. Let's just wrap this episode up.
And finally, you can follow me on Twitter at AnthonyCanton_3. Follow the show at MC University Pod on all platforms, including Instagram, including TikTok occasionally when we put videos on there. And yes, on YouTube, subscribe. Keep subscribing. We just finished giving away a couple of Washed Agenda shirts. Shout out to Ant. Shout out to Summer. Summer, salute to her for tweeting that she rocking the Washed Agenda shirt as she was watching Agatha yesterday. Salute to you, Summer. Appreciate you. And of course, the Patreon, patreon.com/MCUniversityPod. We still have the Bad Boys 2 episode that we're going to do. Rod will be a part of that. That wonderful scallywag Tej will be a part of that as well. And that should be fun as well. So if you feel like supporting, go ahead, support. But in the meantime, keep listening and rate, review, subscribe. You know the whole 9 yards. 5-star, 5-star, 5-star. Appreciate everybody for supporting and listening. So for Jasmine and Rod and Jake, I'm Anthony Canton the Third. Actually, I'm Sherlock Canton the Third. Excuse me. This has been Marvel Cinematic University, and we will talk to you next time.